Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Alignment with Jenn podcast. I am your host, Jenn, and today we are going to be talking about the psychology of successful women. And we're going to be talking about the neuroscience, the psychology, and the spirituality. And I'm going to give you 8 principles to help you become better at anything, and specifically 23.3 times better at anything. And you may be wondering, where did I get that random number from? 23.3 times is if you become 1% better every single day of the year, except for 50 days. Truly, you can become better at anything that you put your mind to by 23 times if you become 1% better 315 days a year. So you can have 50 days where you completely mess up, where you completely don't follow through, and still become 23 times better by the end of the year. And so I really, really like thinking about it in this way because it kind of makes it seem like, oh, it's really easy actually to become better. And I think we have this mindset in society where people think, oh, it's so hard to change. It's so hard to become better, right? I remember in like 90s and 2000s movies, people would talk about like, oh, people don't change. That's actually the least true thing. People will always change. It's just, are you changing for the better? Are you intentionally changing? Are you changing just based off of your circumstances? Are you the cause or are you the effect, essentially? So I want to kick this off with a story about Sara Blakely because she has an amazing story. She is the founder of Spanx, which is a women's shapewear brand. And basically her whole journey is this whole concept of overcoming failures and overcoming and becoming better and better and better. So before she became the owner of Spanx, which is a $1 billion brand, she was selling fax machines. She failed the LSAT twice. What I find really interesting is that her dad would frequently have them sit around the table and share what they had failed at that week. And I think this is one of the most amazing stories and such a testament to her success because instead of making failure something that you avoid, it was something that was actively encouraged. And for you to create any form of success in your life, you have to become okay with quote unquote failure. I personally don't think anything is a failure. I think the only failure is if you quit on something that you really, really want. That's really, in my eyes, the only failure. You're either learning or you're succeeding. Learning or succeeding. Those are really the only 2 options. And so when you see it from this perspective, you are so much more able to go after the things that you want and really go after the dreams that you desire to create. And so what I want to give you in this episode today is 8 pillars that you can follow in order to become 23.3 times better at anything that you want to do. And I highly encourage you to focus this in a particular area of your life in order to really create those outsized returns in one area, right? You can focus this in any area, but you're going to get a really amazing result when you do these things, particularly in one area. The first one, and this is kind of our most overarching one, is she becomes that version of her before she has receipts. So oftentimes people hedge, right? I see this so often in my coaching practice where people will be like, okay, well, when I have a little bit more success or when I have a bigger following or when I have more certifications, then I will go after it. They get this sense of, it's almost like a dopamine hit from saying like, okay, well, I'm going to make progress when I feel a little more better, when I feel a little more confident. The thing is, you don't get confidence through waiting. You don't get confidence through getting more certain about the path. You get confidence by actually taking action, messing up, and realizing that you're okay when you mess up and you don't need to be perfect. The successful women, what they do is they choose their identity. They start with who they are being before what they are doing. And when you become that version of you, you really sit back and you say, okay, not what do I need to do to create that 7-figure business? You say, who do I need to be where that 7-figure business becomes inevitable, right? Who do I need to be when that relationship, that soulmate level relationship becomes inevitable? Who do I need to be? And you show up actively as that person. And that is this idea of, in our modern society, we have it backwards. We have the energetics backwards. And we think that it's, okay, if I do the things, then I will have what I want, and then I get to be happy, right? If I do the thing, I have what I want, I get to be happy, right? We think it's do, have, be, when really it's be, do, have. what the most successful people do is they decide, who do I need to be? Then they do the things in accordance with that identity. Then they have the things that they want. The having is the last result. We often say, okay, well, when I have it, then I can be happy. Then I will feel okay. Then I will feel at peace. When I have the money, then I will feel safe. That's the biggest fallacy, because we will carry that lack of safety into whatever level we create for ourselves. I was speaking with a client recently, and she's worked for a lot of really, really successful people in the coaching industry who are making significant amounts of money. And she said that when they would reach new levels, she's like, they'd still be so stressed out. And these are people making $10 million a year, $20 million a year. And she's like, they'd still be so stressed out, they couldn't even enjoy the money. And I was like, that's because they need to do that internal work before they get there. You can have $10 million and be at peace, and you can have $10 million and feel awful and feel so stressed all the time. It depends who you are being first, because who you are being isn't going to change just because your circumstances change. And the faster way to manifest the thing that you want is to be it first, is to become that identity. Identity is the strongest driving force behind our behavior. So the first thing that I recommend you do is just think about, who do I need to be in order to create the life that I want? Right? I can see the vision, I can see what I want, but who do I actually need to be? Who do I need to be to attract that kind of partner? The second thing is, these successful women, you times 23.3, have systems. They're not just operating off of the seat of their pants. They have systems in their life. And when I started systematizing my life, I became so much more productive. I became so much more focused. I became happier. I became healthier. I became more fit. Like, everything in my life improved when I began systematizing things. And I know this sounds really not sexy, right? It sounds like the least sexy thing that I could talk about on this podcast. But systems are actually extremely sexy, because when you are not feeling motivated, when you are not feeling good, but you have a system in place to help you achieve that, it becomes much easier. I have a lot of systems that I've created thanks to AI. And one of them is, I have this morning dashboard that I get. Then every day it gets sent to me on Slack, and it has the 3 key things that I'm focused on in my life for this chunk of time, right? Until I decide to change those 3 key things. One of them is spirituality, one's my relationships, and then one of them is my business. And then there's also my health, which kind of overarches all of that. So I guess you could call that 4. But every single morning that comes to me and I see it, it's automatically coming to me. That system helps me direct my focus. Okay, yeah, that's right. These are the 4 things that I really, really want to focus on. These are what's most important to me. And so I want to make sure that who I'm being this day lines up with that. That's a really simple system. A system that you already have in place is, before I go to bed, I brush my teeth, right? When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth. It's just this automatic system that you have in place. Habits can be systems. They can be something like AI. They can be more complex. Another system can be, okay, you know what? Each week I do these workouts and I stay consistent with these. About 6 months ago, I signed up for a meal delivery service. That is an amazing system in my life, because it allows me, I was spending a lot of time planning my meals, grocery shopping, cooking, all of those things. It was taking a lot of time, and I found that I would fall off and not eat as healthy as I wanted. Now that I have this system in place, it's so much easier for me to succeed. So look at your life and look and say, where am I consistently falling off and not following through on the things that I want to do? And how can I systematize that in order to actually show up how I want to show up? Because sometimes it's not a lack of willpower, it's just a lack of a really good system. So look at your life. Where am I not showing up fully? And how can I create something? One of my clients is an actress, and she's writing a screenplay. And she said that she's like, I read this screenplay writing book and they said to write for 2 hours once a week. And she was like, that is so hard for me. She's like, so I decided I'm going to write for 15 minutes every single day. And she created that system that worked for her, right? So what systems work for you? You don't have to take other people's systems, but the more that you really intentionally systematize your life, the more that you're going to create this 23.3 times better. Honestly, I think this one alone, if you create really powerful systems in your life, you're going to 50x your life in 1 year. So this one is, she is intentional before she's not. So this comes back to having these overarching desires or vision or intentions for your life. Because so often what happens is if we are not crystal clear on the life that we want to create and the vision that we have for our life, what will happen is we will fall to the level of our circumstances. So let's say I didn't sleep well that night and I was meant to do a workout, right? Then maybe I skip that workout and I feel kind of worse because I didn't follow through on that. But what happens is when you are intentional and you set these goals for yourself, you set these clear visions for your health, for your career, for your relationship, and you really get clear about how you want them to be, you can keep that larger why as your focus. And then it's going to be much easier to be intentional with what's actually happening in your life. So for this exercising example, right? If I don't sleep well, maybe the best choice is to not go work out, but maybe I actually can work out and that will help me feel better. And I'll assess that based on my bigger vision. I think what I so often see with people is that they have so many ideas and they have so many things going on and they have so much that they're focused on that it's hard for them to intentionally act and follow through when things get challenging, when they're tired, when they're hungry, when they're on their period. It becomes harder to show up as that version. But when you have a very clear, crystal clear focus, and I'm talking 2, 3, maximum 4 focuses in your life, then it's so much easier to actually direct your energy toward what you want and overcome those smaller challenges. I've talked about this in previous episodes of your fuel that you want to cultivate, right? You want to have a strong why for the life that you want to create. That way, in the difficult moments, it's easier to be intentional, right? And the way we become intentional is getting crystal clear on what am I actually creating in my life, right? Am I at the whim of the current circumstances of my life, of the job I don't like, of my relationships that's not going well, and I'm just reacting? Or am I over here designing my life and saying, you know what? I want this kind of life, so I'm going to backwards map and intentionally create that. And I'm going to show up for that even when I'm tired, even when I'm hormonal, even when things are difficult. You know, I think in my life, I've kind of swung. I used to be extremely disciplined. I was an athlete. I was a very, very intense rock climber. That was like my life for a long time, for over a decade. And I had a business, those sorts of things. And those were all very, very consuming. And I was extremely disciplined. Then I kind of swung to the other side and I was like, screw that. Like, I want to be in my feminine energy. I just want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be so disciplined. And then I didn't accomplish anything, right? You have to find the middle ground of being disciplined, being devoted, as I've talked about previously, but also following through on the things that you want to do while also listening to yourself, right? There's a balance. And I think it's easy to get really imbalanced and become this like swampy feminine energy that doesn't get anything done. And then this like overly disciplined, controlling masculine energy. You want to get into alignment where both of these are in harmony, where your masculine and your feminine energy are supporting you and helping you make progress on what you want. Because true happiness and true self-love, I think, is creating the life that you truly want, right? It's giving yourself that gift. So number 4, protecting your energy like it's expensive. This is something that's so important. And this goes back to the boundaries conversation we've had previously. This goes back to cleaning up your inputs, right? What are you allowing into your energetic field? Successful people are very particular about what goes into their mind, what comes out of their mouth, what they do with their time, right? Who gets access to them? I get messages very often on Instagram of people asking me to have conversations, right? Asking me for different things. And I'm very particular, or even just asking me for advice via messages. And I'm very, very conscious of how I spend my time, because I know if I spend an hour with someone, right, and it's not something that's moving me toward my goals, moving me toward my visions, that's not a great use of my time. And so you have to be particular about how you spend your time. And it doesn't mean you're not nice to people. It doesn't mean you don't help people. But the more that you grow, the more audience that you have, the more people are going to be interested in being in your energy, right? And so you have to be conscious of that. You have to treat your energy like it's expensive. And you say, do I want to spend my most valuable resource on this, on people that maybe don't feel good, right? Friendships that maybe don't feel good, on activities that don't feel good, on a career that doesn't feel good, right? These are questions you really, really have to ask yourself. And the more that you value your time, the more that it's going to be easy to say no and see that things aren't right for you, right? I recently was working on this project with a friend, and we had agreed that we would both finish these certain pieces of a course that we're both in before we met again to work on the project. And she didn't finish them and I did. So I said, okay, well, then we'll meet when you do finish them, because it's not fair to either of us if we're in these different places, right? So you have to be comfortable kind of letting people down, right? Because your time is very valuable. Your energy is very valuable. The next one is allowing yourself to feel the fear while still going after it. One of the biggest things that I see holds a lot of the women I work with back is discomfort with risk. Is they feel discomfort, they feel fear, and they back away. They don't step into it. I do this sometimes too. And the less that I do it, the more that my life really, really expands. Because the truth is that part of overcoming fear is having faith in yourself and self-trust in your abilities to be okay on the other side, but it's also trusting in infinite intelligence, in the creator, in the universe, that it's going to be okay and you will be supported. Your next level, you've not been there. So you don't know what it's like. Of course, that's going to create fear within you. Obviously, like anything that we've not done typically is going to create fear or discomfort or nervousness, but that's not a reason to not do it. And that's how you build your confidence. That's how you build your faith. That's how you let the universe show up for you, is when you say, okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but I know it's going to be amazing. It may not be exactly what I think it's going to be, but it's going to be amazing. So this is the next one. And I really, really love this one. It's romanticizing consistency and showing up versus perfection. Something that I've heard over and over again from very successful people is they don't focus on the result. They focus on what they can control, which is their own output. So let's say, for example, you want to become a creator and start posting on social media. And you will post something and then you'll go and look at the metrics and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this didn't do well. I suck. I can't believe I didn't do this. That is one way to look at it. It's not a very helpful way, but it's one way. The other way is to say, awesome, I got the rep in. What can I learn from this? I'm proud of myself that I posted. That was the accomplishment, right? The accomplishment is just the act. It's what you can control. You can't control how that content performs. You can study content, you can learn more, but you have to get yourself to actually take the acts, to take the repetition, to put yourself out there. That is what you commend yourself for. That is what you focus on, and that's what you track, instead of how well did this perform? How well did this do? At a certain point, you can do that, but if it's going to diminish your ability to show up, that's not how you want to look at it. Okay. So you focus on and you reward the act, the repetition, the showing up, instead of, did I get that perfect outcome that I wanted? Because you can't control that. And then the last one is making your future self the main character. So really focusing on that version of you that you want to be. A very powerful habit for success is treating that future version of you as a real person and living into that version and recognizing that it's not going to happen overnight and being okay with long-term horizons. Tony Robbins always says, he's like, you overestimate what you can do in a year and you underestimate what you can do in a decade. So often we're so focused on getting it done now, trying to make things happen now, and we don't end up accomplishing anything because we end up bumping around. I see this so often where people that are so focused on getting something accomplished immediately don't focus on that long-term horizon. So you want to have focus on both. You want to focus on what can I accomplish today, this week, this month, this year, but also what's my long-term vision? What's this long-term version of me? What's that long-term horizon? This version of you shows up as the micro choices you're making every single day. And something that I think can create a quantum leap in your life is just asking yourself at every choice point. You have thousands of choice points every single day, asking yourself, what would the future version of me do in this moment? Would she hide? Would she show up? Would she express herself? Would she keep quiet? And when you begin to answer and act from that place, from that real future version of you, what you're going to realize is eventually they're the same person. There's no difference between you and that version. And when that happens, your whole life will look different. So I hope you have loved this episode. I would absolutely love to work with you on a deeper level. If you're interested in support, you can send me the word podcast on Instagram. My Instagram is @alignmentwithjen. And I can share with you a little bit about my community, my coaching community, and the rewiring work that we do. And I hope that you have enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.